Spring Television, ours it is.
Here are the top stories of the news. Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal resumes the hearing of Atiku's suit. PDP's National Working Committee to constitute committee to review cases of indiscipline and anti-party activities against members. On the foreign scene, Central Asian heads of state converged in China's historic city of Xi'an for one-on-one with Chinese leader Xi Jinping. Good afternoon and welcome to Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. My name is Evelyn Ohiola. The Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal this morning resumed the continuation of hearing in the suit by the People's Democratic Party PDP and its candidate Atiku Abubakar. The court is presently hearing the application for live coverage of proceedings. Counsel for Atiku and PDP Chris Uche says the motion dated May 5th and filed on the May 7, praying for an order of the court to allow the televising of the proceedings given its national significance. This goes along with prayers for an order of the court directing the modalities of its implementation. However, counsel for the Independent National Electoral Commission INEC as well as the APC rejected the motion, stating that bringing cameras into the courtroom will defeat the solemn atmosphere that the courtroom is known for. In the meantime, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP, Atiku Abubakar, on Wednesday expressed bewilderment following U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken's call to the president-elect Bola Tinubu. In the call, Mr. Blinken is said to have emphasized his continued commitment to further strengthening the U.S.-Nigeria relationship with the incoming administration. However, the former vice president in a tweet said it was in disbelief that Mr. Blinken called Tinubu a contradiction to the publicly stated position of the U.S. on the 2023 presidential election. He noted that to give legitimacy to the widely acknowledged fraudulent election in the country can be demoralizing to citizens who have urged their bet on democracy and the sanctity of the ballot. Meanwhile, the Labour Party also expressed anger at the call, stating that it was worrisome for Mr. Blinken to be discussing bilateral relations with Tinubu. Moving on, the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party PDP is set to constitute a committee that will review all cases of indiscipline and anti-party activities against its members. A statement by the PDP National Publicity Secretary, Debo Ologunagba, yesterday noted that the decision was in furtherance of ongoing efforts by the national leadership of the party to instill discipline and to achieve comprehensive reconciliation in the party. Mr. Ologunagba further revealed that the party had ordered that no organ of the PDP at any level shall henceforth commence any disciplinary action against any member of the party without due consideration and regard to the provisions of the party's constitution. Meanwhile, Lamidi Akpapa, the factional chairman of the Labour Party, has threatened to expose Peter Obi, the presidential candidate of the party, in the last general elections. Mr. Papa, who continues to insist that he is the authentic national chairman of the party, had a torrid time at the Election Petition Tribunal yesterday. He had to deal with bitter exchanges inside the tribunal over seating arrangements and was booed by supporters of the party as he emerged from the tribunal while his cap was yanked off his head. Addressing the press after the chaotic court session, the embattled politician expressed displeasure that Mr. Obi appears to be taking sides with Julius Abure, the LP chairman removed by the court. Mr. Papa has been accused of collecting bribes from other political parties to destroy LP from within an allegation he has continued to deny. He said Mr. Obi has been economical with the truth so far and that he will expose the former Anambra governor.
Of allegation of corruption of bribe taking, it is not true. And I've told them severally, if you have an evidence to prove, bring your evidence that I have collected money or we have collected money from anybody. That is not, it's absolutely untrue. That's that. You see the Aburi, Peter Obi taking side. You see, I don't want to keep on exposing, but he deserves to be exposed. He deserves to be exposed. Some time ago, in one of the interviews he granted, he said he does not know me at all. I want to tell the whole world he's a liar. And let me tell you why I say he's a liar. I've been trying to cover him, but he does not deserve it. The reasons are this. One, this is a man done his primary in Asaba. I did the opening prayer. And I was not a young officer. I was the deputy national chairman of the party then. So not a junior officer. This party, I've been 21 years in this party. When this party was formed, I started with the party, and I've held a lot of positions in the party to the level I have today.
Still in politics, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, said he regrets leading a forum that champions the emergence of Aminu Tambuwal as Speaker of the House in the 7th National Assembly. Mr. Tambuwal is now an outgoing two-term governor of Sokoto State. The Speaker made this known in Abuja last night at a meeting of the Joint Task, a coalition of members-elect of the All Progressives Congress and opposition parties in the coming 10th National Assembly. The coalition had adopted the anointed candidates of the APC for Speaker and Deputy Speaker, Tajuddin Abbas and Benjamin Kalu, respectively, for the 10th House. Ahead of the inauguration of the 10th Assembly, the majority leader of the House of Representatives, Ado Doguwa, has resigned from the race for the 10th House and endorsed Tajuddin Abbas. Mr. Doguwa led two other aspirants, Abubakar Maki and Tunji Oluwi, to withdraw from the race yesterday during a meeting organized by the Joint Task Group. The ruling APC had endorsed Abbas and Ben Kalu for the Speaker and Deputy Speaker positions, causing protests among aspirants. Doguwa had earlier joined some other aspirants to form a coalition to challenge Abbas. However, in a surprise twist, he pulled out, stating that he cannot go against the party.
It's not like the table is standing against me. No. The fact is that time has come for me to also pay back. And I think paying back in these circumstances means a great responsibility that I must have to honor and oblige. I rise before you today, this good evening, Mr. Speaker, my boss, Right Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, and around me, flanking around me, Right Honorable Abdul Rahim and my other friend here, Honorable Mikey Eleman. We are here individually and collectively stepping into the shoes of this great campaign.
Meanwhile, the Oni of Ife, Obadeye Nito Ogunwusi, has urged the preferred candidates of the All Progressives Congress APC for the positions of Speaker and Deputy Speaker to always have the interest of Nigeria at heart in the discharge of their duties as presiding officers. Oba Ogunwusi gave the admonition when he hosted Tajuddin Abbas and Benjamin Kalu in Abuja yesterday. The monarch reminded the APC candidates of their changing positions and their attendant responsibilities. He further enjoined them to carry everyone along, noting that the country must come first in their leadership estimation.
You have become a servant from your constituency. You want to be a bigger servant, to be the Speaker of the House, and a much bigger servant to serve our dear nation. Always remember that the interest that is number one to you is the interest of our dear nation.
Elsewhere, the Federal Ministry of Works yesterday shut down the Apapa-bound lane of the beginning of Marine Bridge in Lagos, damaged by vandals for the safety of the public. It was gathered that a team of engineers from Buildwell Plants and Equipment Industries Limited used crash barriers to barricade the damaged portion of the deck of the Pearl Bridge. The Assistant Director in charge of Federal Highways in Lagos State, Olukorede Keisha, upon arrival and re-evaluation of the infrastructure, added the total shutdown of the portion. Mrs. Keisha told newsmen that the service lane of the deck of the Pearl Bridge was damaged and caved in due to the activities of vandals. She said investigation revealed that the vandals had set a fire underneath the bridge to gain access to iron rods and other steel components under the bridge to be able to cut them off. In other news, the Zamfara State Governor Bello Matawalle has urged the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission not to limit its corruption probe to governors alone, but to extend it to officials of the presidency and the members of the Federal Executive Council. The governor made the demand in a statement yesterday while reacting to reports that the anti-graft agency had sent invitations to all outgoing governors and commissioners for corruption probe. Governor Matawalle said while he had no problem with plan to probe outgoing governors, officials of the presidency should also not be spared. Matawalle said the investigation must be holistic and not selective, stating that if not done, it will be counterproductive to the anti-corruption crusade itself. You're watching Spring News at 12 on Western Spring Television. We will be right back after this break.
Aminatu, the legendary Queen of Zazzau, is best known to historians as Queen Amina of Zaria, an old walled town and capital of the Hausa state of Zazzau. Amina was a great warrior and the first woman to rule the ancient kingdom of Zazzau. Her 34 years as queen witnessed an unprecedented expansion of Zazzau by conquests. Queen Amina of Zaria belongs to the class of Amazons by the might of her army and her strings of conquests. She opened Zaria to trans-border trade and was said to have initiated kola nut cultivation in the ancient kingdom. The Hausa Muslim figure was born in 1533 and died in 1610 at the age of 77 years. Folklores remember Aminatu, the Queen of Zazzau, as a brave, smart and talented leader whose giant statue now adorns the National Arts Theatre in Lagos, Nigeria, while many educational institutions bear her name. Western Spring Television identifies Queen Amina as a watershed character in history.
Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us on News at 12 and Western Spring Television. Now moving on, the federal government says the Federal Ministry of Aviation has been renamed as the Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace of Nigeria. The Minister of Aviation, Senator Hadi Sirika, made the announcement in Abuja a moment after the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday. Mr. Sirika explained that the alteration became expedient because it was on the exclusive list. He maintained that the future of aviation had experienced an advancement such that aviation and aerospace were intertwined, and Nigeria had the need to proactively set its policies to align with future occurrence. The Council also approved the concessioning of the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Abuja and the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano.
Federal Ministry of Aviation name has been changed because it is on exclusive list, just like Foreign Affairs Ministry is on exclusive list. There is no Foreign Affairs Ministry of Katsina. So the ministry will be called Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace, Ministry of Aviation and Aerospace of Nigeria. And it's important that we become proactive and set our policies, regulations, rules to be in tandem with what is obviously coming.
Now moving to some worrisome news. The death toll in Tuesday's attack on communities in the Mangu local government area of Plateau State has risen to 85, as the search for missing persons is still ongoing in the affected communities. The National President of Wangaville Development Association, Joseph Guankot, made the revelation while speaking to journalists yesterday after a security meeting at the palace of the traditional ruler in Mangu. Mr. Guankot noted that several communities were attacked simultaneously by suspected herdsmen, leading to killings as well as burning of houses and destruction of farmlands. Protesting women had besieged the palace of the traditional ruler, where the security meeting was conveyed with security chiefs, district heads, and government officials led by the Deputy Governor, Professor Sonny Yodin. The Deputy Governor said the state government was concerned, assuring the traditional ruler that the government is aware of the issue.
What is happening in Mangu is not just a Mangu affair. It is a Plateau affair, and the government is concerned about it. That's why we are here to see for ourselves, to hear for ourselves, and to also see what can be done. But let me assure you that government is very well aware of its responsibilities. That's why this delegation is here. We sympathize with you. We appreciate your problems. And we also appreciate the problems the security personnel are going through. They are doing their best. And government will continue to provide the necessary instruments for them to carry out their responsibilities.
Away from security, the Federal High Court in Lagos has struck out a suit filed by some aggrieved shareholders against Seplat Energy. Its CEO, Mr. Roger Brown, and the Chairman Board of Directors, Mr. Basil Omiyi, over alleged racism. Justice Chukwujeku Aneke struck out the suit after the stakeholders' lawyer, Mr. Ayodele Arotiowa, informed the court of his client's intention to withdraw the suit. The aggrieved stakeholders who were petitioners in the suit include Moses Ugburode, Sarat Kodaisi, Kenneth Nabike, Ajani Abidoye, and Robert Ibekwe. The petitioners were asking the court for an order of mandatory injunction restraining Mr. Brown from parading himself as the CEO of Seplat. They equally sought an order restraining Seplat and the company's board's chairman from retaining Mr. Brown as the CEO of Seplat or retaining his services for Seplat in any capacity. Now talking business, the Senate has asked President Muhammadu Buhari to direct the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele, to pay up blocked funds belonging to airlines operating in the country. The upper chamber made the request after Senator Bala Nala presented a motion of the inability of airlines to repatriate their funds from Nigeria to support their operations during yesterday's plenary session. According to Nala, the consequences of these blocked funds are that cheap tickets are not available in the country. The reason, as said, was that taxes and inflation would have eroded the profit when the funds are kept for a long time, thereby making tickets very expensive. The senator explains that another dire consequence of the inability of airlines to repatriate their monies was that airlines were folding and relocating to neighboring countries, further worsening unemployment in the country. Still in business, President Joe Biden and top U.S. Congressional Republican Kevin McCarthy yesterday underscored their determination to reach a deal soon to raise the federal government's $31.4 trillion debt ceiling and avoid an economically catastrophic default. After a month-long standoff, the Democratic president and the Speaker of the House of Representatives on Tuesday agreed to negotiate directly on a deal. An agreement needs to be reached and passed by both chambers of Congress before the federal government runs out of money to pay its bills as soon as June 1. Biden told reporters at the White House that they have come together because there is no alternative, stating that he would cut short his trip to Asia and return to Washington on Sunday, but staff-level discussions would continue in Washington. For news outside Nigeria, Central Asian heads of state converged in China's historic city of Xi'an for one-on-ones with Chinese leader Xi Jinping to seal pledges of enduring friendship, paving the way for a summit expected to result in a regional pact with Beijing. According to China's Foreign Ministry, the bilaterals will set the stage for a group huddle tomorrow, the first in-person gathering of the 6 leaders where Xi will deliver an important speech. The ministry further added that an important political document will also be signed. China is intensifying its economic and political engagement with the former Soviet states as Russia channels what remaining resources it has into the war in Ukraine. Some Central Asian states are increasingly standing up to Moscow, with Kazakhstan not recognizing Russian-controlled regions in eastern Ukraine, to Tajikistan demanding more respect from the Kremlin. The Russia-Ukraine war, Ukraine says its air defense forces had shot down 29 out of 30 Russian cruise missiles fired overnight in an attack that targeted Odessa, the capital, Kyiv, and other regions. The military reveals that Russian forces launched several waves of missile attacks from different directions. It's disclosed that a total of 30 sea, air, and land-based cruise missiles were launched, adding that its air defense systems destroyed 29 cruise missiles. Meanwhile, the Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, Oleksiy Danilov, has called Moscow's latest attacks on Kyiv senseless actions that he claimed were being committed to raise patriotic hysteria in Russia. Now talking sports, Manchester City's manager Pep Guardiola says his side's stunning Champions League semi-final win over Real Madrid banished the pain of last year's defeat. City produced a relentless performance at Etihad Stadium to beat the La Liga giant 4-0 and 5-1 on aggregate. At the same stage last year, Real overturned a 4-3 defeat in the first leg with a remarkable late comeback in the second before winning the final. Guardiola, speaking after the game, said it was really tough losing the way they lost last season. He, however, noted that during 1 year they are able to show how special a group of players the club had. City, who have never won European football's biggest competition, will play Inter Milan in the final in Istanbul on the 10th of June.
Yeah, we're closer. Yeah. Let me win the first 2. Let me win listen, at the end we have the Premier League, we are close. You know, we need one more game. And I would say when you play against our neighbors and the final Champions against Italian team, it's big count. So the season is really, really good. It's really done already. So now we hopefully have to lift it. But the pleasure, the joy, like how much we have fun this season again and again with our people. We make happy our fans, you know, all around the world watching us. They saw a good team playing. This is the biggest compliment. Come on, it's not going to change now. But we are close, and of course we're going to try.
Obviously, you don't want to talk about the treble, but at what point do you have to tell the players that in their careers you might never get a better chance to make history?
Yeah, that's why they know it.
At what point do you start reminding the players of that they are that close to it?
No, of course we are.
Still with football, Brentford striker Ivan Toney has been banned from football for 8 months after he accepted breaking Football Association betting rules. Toney was also charged £50,000 and warned about his future conduct for 232 breaches of the FA's betting rules. The suspension starts immediately, but the 27-year-old can return to training with Brentford 4 months before it ends. He will not be allowed to play again until 17th of January 2024. Posting on his Instagram story, Tony said he was naturally disappointed at the verdict and would make no further comment until the Independent Regulatory Commission publishes its written reasons. Tony has scored 20 goals in 33 Premier League appearances this season, and he will miss Brentford's trip to Tottenham on Saturday and the final day of the season at home to league leaders Manchester City on 28th of May. Before we end the news, here is a recap of our top stories. The Presidential Election Petitions Tribunal this morning resumed the continuation of hearing in the suit by the People's Democratic Party (PDP) and its candidate, Atiku Abubakar. The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) is set to constitute a committee that will review all cases of indiscipline and anti-party activities against its members. On the foreign scene, Central Asian heads of state converged in China's historic city of Xi'an for one-on-ones with China's leader Xi Jinping to seal pledges of enduring friendship, paving the way for a summit expected to result in a regional pact with Beijing. You can follow us on our social media handles on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Western Spring Television. You can also watch us live on our YouTube channel at Western Spring Television. That ends the Spring News at 12. I'm Evelyn Ohiola. Many thanks for your time.